Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. How y'all doing? I really probably should just learn how to edit. I actually recorded this same episode on Tuesday and didn't like how part of it went, so I trashed it and we're trying again. So, here we are. Thank you, Elsa. So, we're gonna go to once a week. It seems more manageable. I don't know how long, but might get easier to do multiple episodes over the summer, and I don't know. Anyway, so today I'm gonna do the piece going over Hearthstone Battlegrounds Heroes, the 3 new ones from the newest patch, 2 that came in an earlier patch, and then just kind of my favorite heroes. And then we'll be done with Battlegrounds for a while. I'm sorry, I'm really I've got a real bad cadence this morning. I'm not really sure why. I'm not extra tired or anything. Oh well. Anyway. So, after this episode being Hearthstone Battlegrounds, probably next week, and maybe even the week after, maybe for a couple weeks, we'll be on Magic again, talking about Modern Horizons 2 preview cards. Though, if you want to go hear about real Magic players talking about Modern Horizons 2 preview cards, the MTG Rants episode this week was all about cards that they saw previewed and their thoughts on them and everything, so it's a good listen. But yeah, talk about some of the cards I like, some of the cards that I'm not as thrilled about, and then we're going to be starting up Tabletop Magic back at the shop in a couple weeks here, so yeah, there will probably be a lot more Magic content again. But, I don't know, we'll see. Because I don't think I'll go back to playing digital Magic as a supplemental thing. I think I've been thoroughly disillusioned on my thoughts that I enjoyed playing Magic on the computer. Anyway, so that's all for the future. Let's get into Battlegrounds Heroes. So the 3 new ones, of course, I don't know their names, so I have cute and fun nicknames for them. Well, 2 of them. The one's just the Quillbore hero, and we'll start with that one. So, advantages, it isn't actually Quillbore specific. Which means after the point where Quillbores are always offered, because when they first introduce a new tribe, this is what they do. They're always in the lobby, and it's for a while. I started shortly after Elementals released, and I remember, I don't know, I guess I just always thought Elementals would always be in the lobby. And then one day they weren't, and I was like, wait, what? But I wanted them. It's for a while, so they can really get a sense of how the tribe plays and everything, and adjust things from there. But you would probably still be offered this hero in a lobby without Quillbores. Well, I say probably. This hero will probably be in the offerings offered to all 8 players. Like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Man, I am, like, really off this morning. Sorry about that. I don't think it will be reserved and only be offered if Quillbores are in the lobby, because the power is not technically Quillbore centric, or not technically Quillbore specific, though it is a little Quillbore centric, because the power is every time you upgrade your Tavern tier, you get 2 blood gems. And Quillbore is the only tribe that has extra synergy with blood gems. Like, there are Quillbores that get extra bumps when you play a blood gem on them. But you can play blood gems on any minion type, so that's why I'm not sure this one will be reserved for only lobbies where Quillbores are in the lobby once they stop being in all the lobbies. And I don't know. I don't think this one's great. According to the website that Bob's Tavern Helper links you to when you're offered heroes, which this is probably one of the best uses of the Bob's Tavern Helper extension of Hearthstone Deck Tracker, is when you're in the hero selection screen, a link will appear in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It's a little rectangular box. When you click it, it goes to this website. I don't think any of this is sponsored by or directly affiliated with Blizzard or anything. I don't think any of it's official, but it'll take you to this website where it will show you where the heroes you've been offered rank. I don't remember the URL. It's something weird. Like, it's a string of letters, and there's an H, an S, and I think a B and a G involved, but there's more letters. But you can, like, if you Google Hearthstone Battleground hero rankings, you can probably find the site where you can see all the heroes ranked. But when you're using the Tavern Helper and you click the link, it will only show you the heroes you're offered, and it'll tell you what their rank is, what their average placement is, what their pick rate is. And their rating, the rating they've come up with the data they aggregate, is tier 2 for the Quillbore hero, and I don't know, I think he is solidly in tier 3, personally. You get 10 blood gems throughout the course, and it's a free power. Like, it's a passive hero power, which I do like passive hero powers that I don't have to pay for and I don't have to remember to activate, but it only triggers 5 times. You get just 2 blood gems. I think it would be significantly better if you got, like, blood gems equal to your Tavern tier, or even blood gems equal to the amount of gold you spent to upgrade the Tavern tier, or something like that. The gold thing would be neat, because then there would be, like, real strategy involved. But that actually might be a little broken. Also, if you paid 10 gold, I don't think you can have 10 cards in your hand. You have, like, a hand limit. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how you can make this power better, because it just feels really underwhelming to me, even when I'm playing Quillbores. I thought maybe Quillbores with the Quillbore hero would feel better, you know, feel like a... Hold on a sec. But yeah, I thought Quillbore hero with playing Quillbores would make both things better, and it really didn't. Now, I didn't get, you know, all the best key Quillbores, but I tried it. And again, see, that's my difficulty with Quillbores, is like, yeah, they can be really high power level as the game goes on. Like, you can get a rack of Quillbores that are, you know, real high stat and everything. But you can also completely whiff on all that. And just get the kind of mopey ones. But yeah, I don't think the Quillbore hero is great. The next one, 2-stat chump, who is less chumpy than I thought, but still kind of chumpy. Also ranked tier 2. I think maybe pick rate is factored in to their tier ranking, and being that they're new, their pick rate's probably high. I don't know if that's factoring into it or what. So 2-stat chump. Once per turn, you can buy a minion from the tavern for 2 gold instead of 3. Set its stats to 2. So it becomes a 2/2. Whatever it was before, it's a 2/2 now. Now, if the Dark Moon event was still going on, I would actually high pick her. Because... oh, gotta pause y'all again. Yeah, if the Dark Moon event was still going on, and that's where you could discover a prize card every, I think it was 4 turns, I would actually highly prioritize her, because she's really great in the early game. With the exception of the 2/4 Taunt Demon that deals 2 to you when it enters. That takes a little while, but I'm sure it's fine. Anything else from tier 1 turning into a 2/2 is at least as good as it started, if not better. Because you're turning like 1/2s into 2/2s, 2/1s into 2/2s. I think turning 1/3s into 2/2s is completely fine. And even with like the tier 1 Quillbore, that's a 3/1, and you get a blood gem when it enters. So you turn that into a 2/2 instead, and you play the blood gem on it, and now it's a 3/3, which for tier 1 combat is pretty great. And the problem is the power doesn't scale well. That's why I said with the Dark Moon event, because one of the prize cards you could discover, and because you discovered a prize card, you could hold it in your hand until you were ready to play it, was to pick a new hero power, or discover a new hero power. So, it's basically like the same as when you take the little frog hero. I don't remember that one's name. And at the start of the game, 3 hero power cards come up, and you select which one you want out of the 3. So it's the same thing. So you stood a chance of being able to change the hero power later in the game and even get, a pretty good one. Like, there are decent applications for this power later in the game. If you're just looking to cycle through minions quickly, like with elementals, you have Little Rag and Party Elemental and Nomi, which all give extra stats when you play elementals. And then you also have the 2 taunt elementals that get extra defense whenever you play elementals. So, you're still looking to buy elemental or elementals and churn through them later in the game with that tribe. So getting 1 for 1 cheaper is, totally fine, because you're not planning on keeping it, you're just cycling through. If you're on the Kolagos build for dragons, and you're just looking to cycle through ETBs, fine. With pirates, there's the 1 pirate that gets +1/+1 every time you play another pirate. And, you can get the 4/3 that gives all your pirates +3 attack. Again, it's not something you're looking to keep later in the game, so If you're just cycling through, sure, buy it for 2 gold, make it a 2/2. Get all the stat boosts from it and sell it off. The problem is, in my opinion, I would rather have a different power even in all of those scenarios. I would rather have something more impactful. Though, I mean, I do think she is... I would rank her towards the bottom of Tier 2 rather than towards the top of Tier 2, but I think Tier 2 could be a fair assessment for her. I mean, my personal preference, if I have a hero that's either... I'm either taking damage in the early game or the late game, you know, I kind of talked about this when I talked about the minions, I would rather have the hero where I'm going to get a little beat up in the early game, but in the late game I'm going to be, you know, well prepared. Because, again, you're taking smaller packets of damage. You know, when your opponent is Tier 6, even if their only minion left standing at the end of combat is a token minion, therefore ranked at Tier 1, you're still taking 7 damage. That's a lot. That's your minimum damage at that end, where it's more of a maximum damage level in the early game when everybody's tiered like 1 and 2. So, yeah, I don't love the hero, but she's fine. Like, if I had the choice between her and the Quillbore hero, I'd take her. Now, the last hero that came in this patch, Switchy McGee, this one's actually pretty good. I think could be dangling at the bottom of Tier 1 or kind of near the top of Tier 2. So, the hero power is you can switch stats between 2 minions. Once per turn. Once per, like, tavern buying phase. Okay, so the power's a little weird to activate. I kind of expected you would activate the power, click the first minion, click the second minion. I was really confused the first time I used it and thought I did something wrong. You have to click the power in between. So you click the power button and it flips over. You select the first minion, it flips back. You click it again and you select the second minion and it stays flipped over then. It's weird to me. Like, I don't understand why you have the fourth click or the additional click in between the 2 minion selections, but, you know, whatever. It's not a big deal. It's a minor annoyance, but focus. Oh, so I didn't realize it for like the first, I don't know, 6 or 7 turns, the first time I played this one. You can switch stats between minions you control and minions in the tavern. It's not strictly switching between minions you control. You can switch between 2 minions in the tavern too, which definitely gives, at the very least, a slight advantage with this power. Because you don't, like, I don't know. When I play elementals, I always end up with a water droplet with a bunch of extra stats on it from, like, party elemental. For some reason, that's where it always wants to dump my triggers from party elemental. It's really annoying. And I almost always end up with a tripled water droplet. Because a lot of elementals wants you to just kind of churn through as many elementals in a turn as you can. So, you know, I end up with like these 12-12 water droplets. And they're a vanilla minion. Like, it's just a 12-12. So at certain points in the game, like, yeah, those are impressive stats, but it doesn't have any extra oomph in combat. But when a whirlwind elemental comes across, then being able to swap the stats and have a 12-12 whirlwind elemental is pretty great. And the nice thing of it is, if I have my full warband of 7, I can swap the stats while the Whirlwind's still in the tavern, sell the Elemental that I just dumped all the stats off of, and buy the Whirlwind and drop it in my warband. I don't have to find another minion to sell to make room for the minion I want to dump the stats on, and then, have a chance of being stuck with the minion I dumped the stats from and not be able to get a new one, so, something better to replace it before we go to combat. So, the being able to switch between minions you control and minions in the tavern, I think, is pretty special. I like it. This one may be another one that it only really pays off with certain tribes. It's pretty good with elementals, but elementals are pretty good, so I don't know that makes it, that indicates that it's, like elemental centric, because again, they're already pretty good, so you're just making them better. But like, even if you're on Beast and a Cave Hydra comes across, their base stats are 2-4. It's not great, but it's a cleave minion, so if you can build it up, they get pretty backbreaking. Like, I actually won 2 lobbies with Beasts over the past couple days, and I had 2 Cave Hydras, managed to triple a Murderous Macaw, and got Goldrin, and the one, I even had a triple Baron at one point. So, yeah, every time the Macaw attacked, I was getting, like, what would that be, 6 triggers? So, plus 30 on all my beasts. And when you have Cave Hydras, that's just nuts. It is just busted. But if you can switch the stats with, like, any other minion, like, there's a Wildfire Elemental also being sold in the same offering. Now you can turn your Cave Hydra into a 7-3 instead of a 2-4. And it still has the cleave effect. So, it's very flexible in application. It's good in the early game, and then it does have a lot of staying power in the later game when you have these kind of chumpy vanilla minions that have boosted up a bunch of stats, from whatever metric has given them extra stats, and you would much rather have a minion with a good combat ability, but you have to build those up from nothing. So, it's, do I take the power level hit in my board while I try to build that up, or do I just keep this chumpy vanilla minion that already has all the stats on it? Well, now you can have both. You can dump those huge stats onto the more exciting, combat minion, not weaken your warband, and, just kind of get extra benefit. So yeah, I'd like Switchy McGee. I may have been, less excited about this one if it didn't come in a patch where I found the other new hero offerings to be so underwhelming. But yeah, I definitely think it's the best out of the 3 new heroes from this latest patch. And yeah, I definitely think it could be grasping onto the bottom end of tier 1. Then, so newer heroes that came in an earlier patch, we have Ticketus and Greybow. So Ticketus is basically the hero powers the Dark Moon event. Every 4 turns you discover a prize card. It's fine. It's definitely not my favorite hero, but I'm not, Like, oh great, I should probably just concede now, when that's the hero I end up picking because it's the best out of what I've been offered. I mean, I've been offered 4 heroes that, like, they're all just shit. I'm like, so what you're telling me is I'm not gonna do well in this ladder. Yeah, so Ticketus is fine. Some of the Dark Moon prizes are pretty great, and some of them are a lot less great. So you have to really have a good relationship with the RNG gods for Ticketus to be, like, super good. I have won a lobby with him once, only once. I got real lucky. It was on Elementals, and, you know, I just got really good prizes. And that one I actually got the Ice Flow prize offered twice, and I always take Ice Flow when it's offered. Or it's Ice Block, maybe. I don't know. So, the mechanic is, one time, when you would be dealt lethal damage, you instead, like, reduce all the damage to 0. So, I got into the top 2. I had an Ice Flow from earlier, because again, like, anytime I see that one, I take it. I think it might be Ice Block, but I'm just going to keep calling it Ice Flow, and we're going to be okay with that. Anytime I see it come up, I take it. So I had it on me for, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 turns. I get in the top 2, and I'm like 2% to win, and my opponent just destroys me. So it triggers. I'm like, oh man. Well, going back to the lobby, it was a prize turn, and I get offered it again, so I take it again. And, you know, I was able to cycle through some elementals and build up my board a little more, get back into combat. Now I'm like 15% to win. And I still get pretty wrecked. So I go back. I get wrecked, but the power triggers, and I'm saved again. I go back and cycle through elementals as quickly as my Boomer APM will allow me to, and build up my board some more. We go back, and I'm like 25% to win now, so still not looking good. And of course, my opponent's pretty low life too. Like, a tie is the only way one of us doesn't die. And I straight up stole the win. Like, the RNG god smiled upon me, and my minions all attacked exactly correctly. Their minions attacked not great. And I think I pulled it out with, like, 1 tier 2 minion left standing, and it was enough to kill them. So I, like, not only won with Ticketus, I straight up stole the win from my opponent. It was pretty great. But I do, like, pretty consistently top 4 with Ticketus, so it's a fine hero. Again, not one of my favorites, but I'm not so loath to take that hero. Then there's Greybow. So, Greybow is not minion-specific, but very minion-centric. Greybow's power is when you summon a minion during combat, you give it some small stat increase. To me, it doesn't really matter. It's like +1, +2 or something. And the important thing is it gets taunt, because that, of course, protects other combo pieces. So, of course, you want to be in a tribe where you're summoning minions during combat. Beasts do that, but as I talked about when I went over the different tribes, your real best chance of winning with Beast endgame is Murderous Macaw and Goldrum. And if you can get a Baron, great, but combo works without Baron. So, and most of the Beast that summon minions during combat are death rattles. So not only is it like, are those not the best beasts you could be stalking with, they'll get in the way. Like, the macaws can try to trigger those death rattles, and you don't have room on your board, because you always want the macaw to attack first. Because macaw's power only triggers when it attacks, therefore you don't want it to get glibbed before it has a chance to attack. So if you have a bunch of death rattles summon more minions, even if it dies in combat, when the power triggers, there's no room for another minion. So, I mean, I did go up against somebody who was on Greybow and went beasts, and I mean, they made the top 4, so, you know, that's cool, but they weren't winning with that strategy. However, demons and mechs, you can actually do pretty well with. Personally, I prefer to go demons over mechs with Greybow, given a choice. So with demons, there are just a ton of demons that summon minions during combat. There's a nice density there. 2, I think it's like tier 4, you get the demon that gets +1/+1 every time every time a demon enters the battlefield under your control. Whether you buy them from the lobby and play them, or they spawn during combat. So you have that one that gets bigger as these other minions summon the tokens that get the bump from Greybow and get the taunt, which, again, to me is the most important part because it turns them into lightning rods. You get Imp Mama at tier 6, that every time it takes damage, it summons a random demon and gives it taunt. So you already have all these synergies with summoning demons during combat. Plus you have soul jugglers, which deal incidental damage as these chumpy little tokens die. And again, big thing, giving them taunt keeps your opponent's minions from attacking your soul jugglers, and I have no idea what the name of the minion is that gets bigger as you buy more demons, or as you summon more demons. So I like the incidental damage strategy with soul juggler and this hero power, but mechs are also very solid because you get the one mech that gets +1 attack and divine shield every time you summon a mech during combat. They also have a very high density of minions that summon token mechs during combat. Mostly death rattles, but there is one that it's when it takes damage. You, in the later tiers, have another mech that gets like +1/+1 every time a mech you control dies. I think that one's like tier 5, I want to say. Then there's a tier 6 minion that isn't a mech, but its death rattle is summon new copies of the first 2 mechs that died during this combat. Now, there'll be vanilla copies of the mech. They, like, any stat bumps and everything you've used to pump up your mechs, like playing Menagerie Jugs and Menagerie Mugs and that kind of thing. They won't have the increased stats, but still, they're mechs that you're summoning during combat, so they get hit with Greybow's power. And, yeah, it's just great. Plus, they mechs have the one reborn mech. It's tier 1. And the reborn trigger counts as summoning a minion during combat. So, again, both tribes are pretty good with Greybow. I lean heavier on demons than I do mechs when I use that hero. But without those 2 tribes, maybe 3 if you're gonna try it on hard mode with beasts, it's just not a great hero. Like, there's one pirate that summons a minion when it dies. no dragons that I can recall. I always say there's no elementals. There is one. Tier 6, you have Gentle Ginny, which when it dies, it summons a random elemental, and you also get a copy in your hand. So there is technically exactly one elemental that summons minions during combat at tier 6. Murlocs, I can't think of any that summon minions during combat. Or then they have no reborns or anything like that. There is in Dragons, there's the one that has Divine Shield and Reborn. So technically that counts, I guess. But the thing is, because Greybout is not minion specific, it can be offered to you in any lobby. So it's one of those heroes that before you select it, you need to look at what is in the lobby. And if you don't have, I would say if you don't have both demons and mechs, really evaluate if there is another hero choice that is doable. But you want at least one of the two. So that's it for all the newer heroes. My favorite heroes, Patches is of course my top absolute favorite. What I like about Patches, so Patches is minion specific. You will only be offered Patches if pirates are in the lobby. So if you're offered Patches, you don't have to check. Minion specific heroes, you don't get offered if those minions aren't in that lobby. So Patch's power is for 3 gold, get a random pirate in your hand. Every time you buy, not play, buy a pirate, reduce the cost of the activation by 1. So you end up, being able to get incidental, free pirates. The fact that the full cost activation only costs as much as a minion costs. So there have been times, many times actually, where I've had Patches as my hero and my turn 1 offerings don't include a pirate, so I just activate Patches instead. And I just get a pirate from him. Because you're either going to get the 2-1 that leaves behind a 1-1 when it dies, or you're going to get the deck swabby, which is the 2-2 that reduces your tavern upgrade tier by 1. Or your tavern upgrade cost by 1. Either way, they're fine. That's what you're looking for, tier 1. So, especially once you get to the point where you have the pirate that gets +1/+1 every time you play a new pirate. Spending the 3 gold to activate the power doesn't really feel bad. Yeah, sure, you can end up with a tier 1 pirate when you're tier 6, and that sucks, but if you have doubles, you stand the chance of getting the 3rd one off the power activation. Of course, it's much better when you're finding pirates that you want, and so you're cycling through them and reducing the activation costs to the point where it's 0, so you get free activations. Even if you're going to let it sit in your hand, once it hits 0, you do want to activate it, because the count, I don't think, will start over again. I've never tested it, but I'm pretty sure the count won't start over again until you've activated the power. So you'll just keep reducing it to 0, and it's already there. So yeah, Patches is my favorite. Shivala I pick a lot, and I shouldn't. So Shivala is great if you can find elementals. So that's the elemental specific hero. Every time you play, not buy, play, again, important distinction for this one, an elemental, you tick up on your power. Every 3rd elemental you play reduces your tavern upgrade cost by 3. So if you can find Celementals, they're great because they count for 2 ticks. Because you buy this elemental, you play it out, you sell it back, you get the 2/2 water droplet and play that. And it counts the water droplet. So you can grind through, like, I have had rounds where I was able to grind through elementals so much and, like, found 2 elementals, which is just great, that I've triggered the tavern reduction twice and been able to, like, upgrade tavern tiers 2 turns in a row. So, but I mean, you also can end up in the situation where you can't find elementals. I also, like, I'm generally not a fan of heroes that their power is tied to tavern upgrade tiers. But when they help you upgrade faster, so like Shivala and Omu. So Omu's thing is every time you upgrade your tavern tier, get 2 gold back. What are we doing? Alright, I'm confused, but okay. So it doesn't reduce the cost, like, you still have to be able to front the gold, but you can plan out your turn and, like, okay, it costs me 5 to upgrade this turn, which is effective 3, so I'll pay my 5, I'll get my 2 back. It does kind of change which turns you want to upgrade, because, like, you don't want to upgrade your tavern tier on 2, where you have 4 gold, because you end up with then 2 hanging gold. But yeah, things that help you upgrade your tavern tier faster, or even in Omu's case, like, if you upgrade your tavern tier on turn 3, you are upgrading slower, but you also, because you get the 2 gold back, then have an opportunity to refresh and a chance to get minions of tier 2 and buy 1 that turn. Whereas all of your opponents are, well, you're at least on par with what they're doing. And then for the higher tiers, you do get to upgrade faster. And, you know, you do better when you're on Tavern Tier 6 and all your opponents are on Tier 4. So yeah, Shivala can be great, but Shivala can also be a trap. So, I don't know. Choose wisely. The other, like, minion-specific heroes I don't really like. The Murloc one's okay. Every time you sell a Murloc back, you get a random Murloc in the tavern. So, it can be nice in the later levels when you're cycling through just trying to find Toxvins, but it's still kind of meh. Ragnos is fantastic. Actually a little salty about Ragnos. Because I never played Hearthstone proper, I don't know what all the keywords mean, right? And a lot of them, you know, you get the reminder text when you hover over, and that's cool. But Ragnos, on the hero selection screen, all it tells you is it used to be kill 20 opposing minions, get Sulfuras, but it didn't tell you what Sulfuras was, so I wouldn't pick him. So what Sulfuras was then was your left and rightmost minion got +4/+4 right before you went to combat each turn. It's pretty great. And of course, by the time I was like, alright, well, I'm going to pick this one because I know I don't like any of these other ones, and then saw what the hero power was, and I was like, oh my god, I should have been playing with this one all along. Now, they did nerf it because it was a little too powerful. So now it's kill 25 opposing minions, and Sulfuras is only +3/+3 to your left and rightmost minions. But, I mean, it's still pretty groovy. Still highly recommend. I like AFK. I usually do pretty well with her. I know a lot of people don't like her. I probably like her more because her name is a pun. So AFK, and that's A.F.K.A.Y. Her hero power is the first 2 turns you completely skip. The only thing you can do, like, it'll offer you minions, but you have no gold. You can't buy any minions. The only thing you can do is freeze. And I do frequently freeze if, like, there's a Elemental or an Alley Cat, anything, any of the token minions. Because then on turn 3, when you have 5 gold and your tavern upgrade cost is 3, or if there's a deck swabby, I'll freeze for that. Anything you can do to get that 1 extra gold to be able to buy a minion and upgrade your tavern tier is good. Then the other part of her power, like the payoff for waiting the 2 turns, is you discover 2 tier 3 minions on turn 3. Always, so you get the cards to play out too, and then that'll trigger 3 tier 3 minions to show up on your screen. You pick which one you want, and you do that twice. Always pick those before you play, like, buy and play from the lobby. Because you can get minions that will inform your choice a little more, like, oh, okay, I have a Elemental or a deck swabby. And, okay, I got Elemental, so I'll take the Elemental, or, oh, I got 2 decent pirates, so I'll take the deck swabby. Or if there's, like, enter the battlefield synergy or anything else. I love the Lich King, but I don't recommend. It's actually not a great hero. It's another one that as the game goes on, because, so Lich King is, you have to activate it, but it is 0 cost. You give one of your minions Reborn for the next combat. The thing with Reborn, though, is it doesn't matter how big you've pumped up a minion when it's quote-unquote reborn. After it dies, it comes back with 1 toughness, and it's a vanilla copy. So if you have a Whirlwind Elemental that you've pumped up to, like, a 12-12 or whatever, it's still going to come back as a 4-1. But it'll still get its Divine Shield, and Bronze Warden will still have Divine Shield, but Bronze Warden already has Reborn, and Reborn doesn't stack. So that's another thing to be aware of. The other thing with Lich King, once you have a full board, if you give Reborn to a minion with a Death Rattle to summon more minions, you have to be careful where you place it, because the Death Rattle will trigger first. So, if, you know, you have the... Oh my god, focus. So, like, if you have the tier 1 pirate that, when it dies, it summons a 1-1, and you put Reborn on that, and it's your first minion to die, the 1-1 shows up, and there's no space for the Reborn copy. So you basically lose out on the activation. Trying to think. I think that's it for, like, my top picks, my favorite heroes, the ones that, like, I want to see offered to me. I mean, I've played most of the heroes. I don't like Galkrond. It gives all minions +2 attack. Like, not just yours, your opponents too. Took me like 3 times of playing with that one to realize that. I've never played with, I think his name's like Bardock or something. The one where you gamble on matches to try to win gold. I've never played with that one. But, yeah, no, those are my highest pick heroes. I think they're great. The dragon that gives you your first refresh each turn is free. I actually kind of like that one. It's not great, but it's fine. But yeah, that's my favorite Hearthstone heroes, or Hearthstone Battlegrounds heroes, and the new heroes we've gotten over the last couple months. And again, this will probably be it for Hearthstone for a bit. Probably be a lot more Magic here for a bit. We're gonna start running events at the shop again and everything. So, yep. And Modern's about to get really shaken up by the Modern Horizons 2 set. And that's, of course, the format I will be playing at FNMs and everything, so I'm interested to see what happens there. But yeah. Anyway, I gotta go and get myself in for work and get Bird on for her last day of school. Thank God. I'm so glad the school year's over. It's been hell. But all that said, as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all next week.